Hello everybody. So I'm going to do a quick video about what is called incentives. So economics, it looks at how people make choices, but it also looks at how governments and individuals can influence to make certain choices, for better or for worse. Oops. What an incentive is, it's something that motivates or encourages something to do something. So an easy way to think of it is like it's a bribe. You're bribing someone with something good to get them to make a certain behavior or do something that you're looking for them to do. It is different than a punishment. Incentives are positive things that you're being rewarded with something. Punishments are the opposite. They're when you're being given a negative outcome. So it's important to keep those two distinct. So you probably have some incentives in your own life. Maybe you've had teachers in the past that would bribe you or the class to do a certain behavior. If everyone behaves or does well on their test, you get extra recess time or something like that. If you're in sports, your coach might bribe you or give you an incentive if you win the big game or something like that. So they're very commonly used in many, many different ways. So why do we use them? Schools could use it to try to help kids behave or to get good grades. Businesses will give incentives to workers to work harder or sell more product or whatever. Sports teams, obviously, there's a big incentive to win the game or to outcompete your opponents. Parenting, parents give out incentives to their kids quite a bit, just to try to get them in line and stuff like that. One interesting incentive program that's been going around is with the COVID vaccine. So state governments are really trying to push for as many people to get vaccinated as possible so that we can kind of get this pandemic under control. So this was a while ago, but this is from Washington State. But if you were vaccinated, you were entered into like lotteries basically, where you could win up to $1 million. This was Washington State. I know California and quite a few other states had drawings as well. So you win $1 million, $250. Then I found this, but this is what Minnesota was doing. It's not $1 million, but there's some stuff on there. You can win state fair tickets, Valley Fair stuff, Visa gift cards. So these were incentives given out by the state to try to motivate people to get the vaccine. But with incentives, you need to be careful because otherwise they can kind of backfire on you. So there's one story where there were, I forget who it was, I believe it was the British, and they were in China, and they were paleontologists, and they were there to study fossils, dinosaur bones. So they were wanting to find as many bones as possible, so they recruited the locals to help look for it. So the Europeans said, hey, for every piece of a dinosaur bone you bring us, we'll give you a little bit of money. So it started to work. People started bringing in these little chunks of dinosaur bone. But what was actually happening, they were paying for each little piece of bone. So if a local found like a big bone, what they would actually do is they would break it apart into a whole bunch of little ones because they got paid for each little piece. So this incentive program kind of backfired because the scientists were just getting a whole bunch of little smash bones instead of the full ones that they were looking for. Another one that you're going to be reading about was called the Great Hanoi Rat Massacre. It's a hilarious, interesting story. I won't explain it too much here because I want you to read about it, but it's about how the French tried to handle problems with too many rats in Vietnam. But one we will talk about is this one. It's called the Cobra Effect. So the name came from, it was when England had a colony. They had colonized India. So they had a bunch of people working the fields, growing crops and stuff like that. But a problem they were having is a lot of the field workers were getting bit by cobras, which I'm sure you know are quite poisonous and can kill you. So they were like, well, this is a problem, so we gotta try to take care of these cobras. So the British set up an incentive program where for every dead cobra you brought them, you would get some money. They'd give you some cash. And they're like, this will make people try to kill the cobras. We'll bring the population down. A win-win for everybody. And the program worked great. People started killing so many cobras and bringing them in. Or at least that's what the British thought. What they learned was actually going on is the Indians were actually starting cobra farms. And they would just raise tons of cobras, and then they would kill them and turn those in, which obviously isn't helping the problem. So when the British learned what was going on, they canceled this incentive program, and the locals with these cobra farms are like, well, these cobras are worthless now, so they actually released them into the wild, and that made the cobra populations much, much worse. So the Cobra Effect is also known as perverse incentives, and it's when you create an incentive program that kind of backfires, and it actually either creates new problems or makes the problems worse. So you are going to be reading about the Great Hanoi Rat Massacre. You're going to be reading about whether or not we should pay students for good grades, because that's an incentive program that some schools are testing out. And so you'll be doing some activities with that. And yeah, good luck.